Think we're good?
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, sounds good.
Heck yeah, brother.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming.
Dude, thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I know you're going through a lot right now, so I really appreciate you coming.
Oh, man. Well, we're all going through a little something, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. So you are coming straight from what you said?
Yeah.
What was it?
So
Infusion?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm in treatment for, we've got about 70 tumors. So I have lymphoma cancer, and I've been battling about, let's see, 11 years now.
Wow.
And we've been battling nonstop. So we've tried just about every type of treatment that you can for lymphoma, and we've been through trials and things like that. So this last couple months of treatment, we actually in January, we did a trial, a brand new trial at Mayo Clinic. And unfortunately, it didn't work the way we wanted. It was a trial that kind of went backwards on us. And it was a really trippy trial. It was an oral chemo, but it actually started to cause me to hallucinate a little bit at the end, where when I would close my eyes, I would immediately enter into another dimension. And it was kind of like, I'm a guy who mess around with mushrooms and things like that a little bit. And it was something I've never experienced, LSD or stuff like that, but so I can't compare it to a lot of the hallucinogenics, but it was a really weird one. I'd close my eyes and I couldn't sleep. I'd just go into, I'd be awake still. So I wasn't getting sleep, and it took a while to get over that. And the tumors grew really fast from it. It kind of went backwards.
Oh, gosh.
So then we hit it with the chemos. There's different chemotherapy blends and stuff we've used over the year. A lot of chemotherapies are derived from plants now. And, you know, you hear like, oh, it's poison or whatever. And, but over time, I've wrapped my, kind of got my mind to be like, okay, this is something that's a little bit, healthy. It's something that my body needs or whatever. So anyways,
chemotherapy in general, you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah. There's about 150 to 200 chemotherapy drugs out there. And most of the major ones come from plants. One of the most common comes from the Madagascar periwinkle rose. So they used to use that in Central America, and they would kind of like throw it at somebody, and it might get rid of the cancer or it might kill him. So over time, they figured out how to derive it into infusion form. So we'll go back to some of those chemos that we did before that can kind of stabilize my disease. We did that. Fortunately, it stabilized it a little bit, kind of grew again. So we're at about 70 tumors on the lymph nodes.
Gosh, and that's current right now?
That's current, yeah.
Wow. And where are your lymph nodes? Is that in your necks? Or
you have them throughout your whole body. You even have them in your head. You have them down in your legs and things like that. But your main ones, you're right. Your main ones are going to be in your neck, under your arms, in your groin area. Those are the biggest clusters. So when you do get lymphoma, those are the ones that tend to get hit.
Ah, gosh.
So we did radiation because I just finished that Monday. Radiation it's kind of a laser thing that goes in and zaps the tumors. And we had some really pesky tumors that had formed near the spine and were causing some pretty nasty pain. So we were like, let's just radiate that one. We don't need to deal with them anymore. So,
wow. So is radiation like sort of the more intense step? Like you try to do chemotherapy first and then...
Good question.
And then radiation if they start growing, or...
Yeah, so it used to be that probably like 30, 40 years ago, radiation was a more intense step. It was a full body thing. It would really kind of char your skin. The technology in the past, I did radiation 10 years ago, and then this year I've done it twice. The technology in just 10 years is just phenomenal. So it was about 2 weeks of me going into kind of a big chamber radiation thing, and you're not in there very long, but a lot of time it's a little claustrophobic. You got to be buckled in so you don't move at all.
Oh gosh.
And they hit you with an invisible like laser thing, and it goes in there and it zaps the tumor. And they've got it down to a pretty good science now to where you don't get too many effects from it. You might feel a little bit of burn or something like that. It's actually, for me at this point, it's a lot easier and kind of welcome compared to chemo, because it gets rid of that tumor pain, and that helps me kind of, okay, now we got rid of that pain. And
wow, just like live a normal life. So does it eliminate the tumor or just sort of help with the pain?
Great question. Yeah, so it's called nodular sclerosing lymphoma. So the lymph nodes, instead of getting evaporated, they get scarred. So when you kill them, they just kind of calcify and hang out there. So it hits them and the cancer isn't there anymore, and they're shrunk enough so they're not going to press on nerves, but it's still like this calcified sort of thing.
Interesting. So it's still there. It's just not growing anymore and not giving you any problems.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there a reason that they can't just do that to all of the existing tumors?
Ooh, that's another great question. Man, you're cerebral, smart dude. Yeah, that's one of the first things I asked. And unfortunately, because the lymph nodes filter the blood, it gets into the blood cells as well. So
the radiation gets into the blood cells?
The cancer activity. So cancer activity is in the tumor on top, basically on the lymph nodes, or sort of in the lymph nodes. And then the lymph nodes are a filter of just bacteria and foreign invaders. It's key part of your immune system. So it will, if you zap it, it stops there, but the blood is still flowing. So you get cancer activity that's flowing between the lymph nodes. So that's why the only way to get rid of it really is chemotherapy or bone marrow transplants. That's another whole nother deal out there that we do.
Gosh, wow. Have you gone down that path before?
Yes. Yeah, we've done 3 bone marrow transplants, and they were all, there's difference. That whole thing is, I'm working on writing a book. I'm hoping to be done here in the next couple months. But
awesome. Wow.
I'm really hoping to bring into light a little bit more of the bone marrow transplant world, because in a hospital, you have the ICU and you have, everybody knows about that. But then you have bone marrow transplant, and both of them are the most intense, where you have somebody watching you around the clock. I did 3 different ones, one a year, 2014 to 2016. And the final one I did was an allogeneic bone marrow transplant. That's where you have a donor immune system. So there's a bone marrow transplant registry. I encourage everybody to go in and just register, and it's a pretty easy process that you do. And
it's like, if you pass, you can donate your bone marrow?
Exactly. And it's the process of donating bone marrow isn't a big deal anymore. It's pretty much just like giving blood. It used to be that they go in there and have to chip away something, and it was like, shoot.
Cut open your bones, I'd imagine.
But I matched with a guy in Poland, and in Poland and I think Germany and some other European countries, they make you're required to, when you turn 18, to register into that. So they have a big, amount of people. That's exactly right. So thank God I matched with him. He wasn't a perfect match, but it was enough to get the job done. And from that, in the bone marrow transplant, you regrow an entire immune system. They completely erase your immune system. You regrow an immune system. They do that by hitting you with a lot of chemo. And when your immune system comes back, your blood type changes.
Wow.
So I went from B positive to O negative blood type. And then it's weird because you even start to get that person's taste a little bit, some of their allergies, and your whole body goes, this last one, when you do, it was the most intense. It's an allogenic one. Your body goes through a short-term puberty. So
wow.
Thank God there's another guy that was going through at the same time as me that I connected, and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on here?
Your voice starts changing. You get another octave deeper.
Oh no, it's like, what happened down here? Oh no.
Wow.
It's crazy.
But interesting.
You're in this thing, and it's a sealed, like a bubble room. So when anybody comes in, they have to completely suit up,
like hazmat suit.
Exactly. It's a hazmat suit. When they come in, so you don't really have human contact. It's a very, very isolating experience.
Wow.
It's
how long does it last?
Usually it's a month.
Wow.
Sometimes it can 3 to 6 months. I was in. Often they let me out after a month, and I'd have to go back in a little bit. There's a lot of things that happen in that. They want you to start walking, so you're holding your poles. You usually get 2 poles with a lot of pumps and stuff's going in. I have a port, and you get a catheter and all sorts of things. But you'll just hear people just sometimes screaming in the room. It's like a really, really, the world there is just a completely kind of unknown world. And it's some of the worst ways that you can possibly die. Maybe that's, not to bum people.
Gosh.
I hope I'm not going to bum out point, but the nurses, what they go through there, they're such strong people, compassionate people that have to really, it's kind of like an ICU, but another step up, where you have to care for your patient 12 hours a day, and you just get to really connect with that patient. So one way, it's called graft versus host disease. So the new immune system gets when there's attack on the body, it almost gets over revved and it goes to try to help out, but it ends up hurting it. So one way that happens is the skin. So the first year you're not supposed to be exposed to the sun at all. I had a friend that she went out a little bit too early, got hit by a little sun, and it turned into 3rd-degree burns under her skin from head to toe. So literally, she was treated as a burn. And when people die, the nurses say that the skin is black and charred.
Wow, just from going outside after the treatment.
Yeah, because the donor immune system goes to help, and it's like everything's like a reverse backwards sort of thing. It's like mind blowing, and it really made me see too. Like before that stuff, I was kind of, the immune system, man. If I just eat a little more fruit and get a little more sleep, but this is so complex. Even the smartest doctors and stuff, they don't really understand all of the complexities and how that whole process works.
Wow, especially if it changes through a bone marrow transplant. That's crazy.
You're right.
And so you're saying it's like the ICU, or it's like a similar, intensive care unit is like similar to the bone marrow transfers because of how intense the process is, or? Absolutely.
And then also because you have a dedicated nurse that's watching you 12 hours a day. You're never left alone. You always have somebody watching you. It's very specialized care where, you go stay in a regular hospital, and some hospitals will give you pretty good care, but they'll leave your room for a while and different things happen. This is just really, it's a deep sort of, you're in the ICU and you're hooked up to different things and you have access to a lot of different machines. So it's kind of like that in bone marrow transplant. It's just a whole other channel in the hospital of that sort of stuff.
Wow, that's incredible. And so has it helped you since then, you think?
I think it has. I think it definitely helped keep me alive. It has its pluses and minuses. Sometimes different things happen where you don't want them to. The whole world of jiu-jitsu opened up to me about 3 years ago. And that came at a time when COVID had just hit, and my body was really trying to get out of the bone marrow transplant type of setting where I was getting out in the sun a little more. I was testing the waters. I was exercising. I was adding muscle and things like that. But I hadn't really gotten out into community very much yet and things like that. So I got invited to Tim Welch's gym, and something just hit me there right in the middle of COVID, like, go do this. And I believe it. I'm a God guy, so it's almost like God was like, get in there and do this. And and I went in, and you know how it is. Everybody's so inviting in the jiu-jitsu community, so much love in there, and went in and started training. And I'm thinking, man, I'm not wearing a mask and I'm susceptible, and I'd catch little things here and there, but it's
people
like,
are sweating on me
into my eye and my mouth. I was like, oh no. But it was almost like I was strengthening my immune system. I'd get a little sick, and then I'd hit it again, and there was something deeply, deeply spiritually special about combat with another human being where you're going to battle against that person and you're connecting with them in a way I'd never connected with somebody. I messed around with boxing. It's always been a fight fan and stuff, but not to that level, just going all out in jiu-jitsu and feeling that those connections and the camaraderie of some of the younger guys would just be like, whoa, you're going through this. And, me being reinvigorated, like, wow, you guys are going through this. And there's a lot of parallels in the cancer battle, I think, in the jiu-jitsu kind of MMA world. So that the last 3 years being in jiu-jitsu, it really, there's just something there. The cancer battle, the whole world in that is you want to stay alive, you got to fight, you got to be, the habits that you develop to become at the level that you're at, it translates into the rest of your life too, I think. But there's something there with that jiu-jitsu and the healthiness in your life. I absolutely believe if I wouldn't have come into the jiu-jitsu gym, I wouldn't have recovered to the point I am. Now I'm kind of in bad shape now and stuff, but
you seem in great shape.
Thanks, man. The bone marrow transplants, though, I think that was pretty key. Where I think that the advice usually is stay away from people and hide out and be safe, but instead,
did the opposite.
Oh, the jiu-jitsu is just beautiful.
Wow, that's awesome. So you basically were on the tail end of the bone marrow transplant. You finished that, and that's when you discovered jiu-jitsu?
Let's see. Yeah, sort of, because it takes a couple years to get over the transplant, since I did 3 of them. So I'm still I was in care for 7 years in bone marrow transplants. So I go in.
Wow.
Sometimes I'd stay in the hospital for different things and be back in the same setting for a few days. Sometimes I'd be going in there at least once or twice a week into the outpatient BMT and getting stuff done.
Interesting. Well, that's awesome. I've said it before that jiu-jitsu has a ripple effect, that you start trying your best at jiu-jitsu and you just naturally start trying your best in other parts of life.
True.
And so I imagine like keeping a healthy diet, and I mean, it looks like you work out an incredible amount for all of these things that you go through. Is this something that you've adopted through jiu-jitsu, or has that always been part of your life?
I've always been a geek in that area.
Nice.
For some reason, just wired that way. I always worked around it. I was either a personal trainer, working in athletic training, owned a nutrition store, stuff like that. So it's always kind of been my thing, which really shocked people. And when the cancer did come, and I didn't believe it at first, I was like, nah, man, I'm healthy. This other guy, man, he's smoking cigarettes and doing all sorts of, never takes care of himself. He's got cancer, not me.
Gosh, yeah. Isn't that horrible? That's how that works out.
What?
You've been a super healthy guy your whole life. And then, so you said it started 11 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is there like, does anyone know like the exact cause of it, or could it be genetic, or was there a particular incident that started it? Or
I do think that. So I've been down this road quite a bit over the last 11 years, and sometimes you beat yourself up like, oh man, did I do this to blow it back up again? But really with the blood cancers, it's all genetic stuff. It just goes back to, when I first started, I was in denial, and I searched everywhere I could trying to find some proof that somebody, I didn't want to do chemo. Nobody wants to do it. So I've kept my ears open, and I'm always ready for maybe there's something out there, and I'm very open to trying new things. But people that have veered off the path of the standard treatment, there's a lot of data. We have very close-knit groups in the community where we compare notes as patients along with the doctors and the nurses and things like that. Nobody's ever survived in blood cancer without medical treatment. I think in some other types of cancer, maybe if you got an early stage colon cancer or breast cancer, maybe there's something you could do there.
Because I have heard people going to like Mexico and trying like non-traditional treatments. And so you're saying the research just isn't good for those type of treatments? That's
a good point. I do think there's some stuff that like cancer treatment centers in America that just became City of Hope. They're doing a lot of stuff that the regular hospitals aren't doing. The regular hospitals.
And where is that located?
That's in Goodyear, I think it is. Just in
Goodyear, Arizona?
Yeah, Goodyear, Arizona. And the main City of Hope campus is in Los Angeles. So they purchased Cancer Treatment Centers of America. And that was a place that would use like vitamin infusions, and they'd have massages for you there and things like that. Yeah,
that's pretty nice.
Yeah. So instead of just going to your some of the places you go in your chemo chair, like there's people next to you, and you just feel like you're in a machine or something like that. Versus having the care and the community and all those other those tools and things like that. But there's a Netflix documentary. I forget what it was called, and this was when I first diagnosed 11 years ago, and I think it's still on Netflix. There's a Dr. Brzezinski, and he's probably known as one of the leaders in non-medical cancer treatment, and he actually went through stuff where the U.S. kind of kicked him out, and he's in Mexico, and he's got a great facility there.
Oh, really? And so what is like a non-medical cancer treatment?
They'll use... They got into one thing they did is T-cell therapy, which now that's actually being used in hospitals. So a lot of times they're ahead of the trend. They might be able to get through the red tape that here we've got to nail it down in research before they really push that through. But some of it's out there. Like they'll have there's frequencies, and I'm always open to these kinds of things, but. This Dr. Brzezinski, where I was working at the time, I was a posture alignment therapist, and
You were a posture alignment therapist?
Yeah. Wow. That was my job before I got diagnosed. And the owner of our company knew Dr. Brzezinski because his wife went through a cancer battle, contacted him on my behalf, and he said, no, you don't want to mess around with this stuff. This is one where you want to go in to get treatment. So when I heard
about for your particular type of cancer.
Yeah, for blood cancer.
So even this guy who is the head of this non-traditional treatment,
damn it.
He's like, come on.
Right?
Wow, how interesting. Wow. Yeah. And so you're also a world record holder through this, right?
Yeah, I kind of, so there is a record in the Guinness Book. It's held by David Hoon in England, and he has 57 chemotherapy rounds. So when I saw that record, I think I was at like 150 at the time. I said, I was like, you know what? I think I got this guy beat, and kind of looked into it more. I saw that he passed. So was, sorry to his family and everything. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this record. So I started applying to the Guinness Book. Hey guys, I got 150, and kind of went through the routes, had to really bug them and pester them. And I finally got to the final big boss or whatever it is at World, and by that time I think when I actually finally talked to them, I was probably at 210 or so, somewhere around there.
210 pounds?
I'm sorry, 210 chemos, and that record was 57, and they're like, yeah, you probably got this, but we're not going to do medical stuff because it bums people out. They'd rather do, and it really bothers me. I've gone on Twitter and kind of flamed them a little bit, so now I was like, just calm down or whatever, because they got the world record for drinking this liter of soda the fastest possible. The guy's just really heavy or
probably
whatever.
The most beer and all of this stuff too, but
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So when that happened, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna claim this record, man. And I'd have fun with it. I go into the Facebook groups where we have these private groups for blood cancer, and I am the world record. And some people are like, this is ridiculous. Right? And then some people challenge me. So we had a couple challenges and compare notes. And, I still got it. So now we're into 342 right now. And
wow, 342 treatments. And so is that is one treatment happen in you're fine. Does one treatment happen in a single day, or is one treatment like a bout of treatments?
It's usually a bout of treatments. They have cycles of chemo. They have rounds of chemo, and then for blood cancers, especially for lymphoma, they have a lot of blends. So the very first chemo I did was a blend of 4 chemos, and that was once every 2 weeks. So we consider that a round of 4 different chemos
so
every 2 weeks.
2 weeks would be one round.
Exactly.
And you said you're at 340?
342.
342 right now?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I hope that number doesn't grow too much. I hope you can just establish as champ right now and, leave your record at that.
Well, one thing is that I don't think it's going to get broken, because when the first 5 years I was doing treatment, I was at the apex of chemo being used. Mayo Clinic was tapping into a lot of German chemo regimens that were like 7 different chemos in one set. So that enabled me to get a lot of, a lot more chemo than the people before me were using old school chemo and weren't getting quite as much. Then we really pushed it. Now we have something called immunotherapy, monoclonal antibodies that came through, and that's really
monoclonal antibodies.
Yeah,
isn't that what they were using against COVID?
Yeah, one of the forms. They're all drugs that end in MAB, and there's a whole class of them, and those are interesting. Those actually aren't from plants. They derive those from the spleens of like rabbits or mice and things like that. I don't know who comes up with this stuff, but those have absolutely changed the game in all of the cancer world now for probably the last 3-4 years, where now you can get away in a lot of cases without those crazy big chemo things, and you get a little bit less side effects. You see people 10 years ago, they get a blood cancer, they're going to lose their eyebrows, hair, fingernails. Nowadays, you get a much better shot to keep your hair and things like that.
Now you can grow a sick mustache and beard combo.
One thing on that last trial, I couldn't get the hair to go, but the facial hair has been blowing up.
Oh, really? Wow.
I mean, it's got more gray than I'm letting on and stuff like that, right. But it's been growing like crazy.
Maybe it was the second bout of puberty. Really just got you through it.
I didn't think of that. That's good. Brother.
Wow. How interesting. I gotta say, you keep such a positive attitude. Do you think
Thanks,
has this been like throughout your whole life, or is this something that you've maybe developed through all of this hardship that you've been through?
That's a good question. I think I had probably a much worse attitude before cancer. I think that
before cancer.
I think attitude. I'd probably be not as smiley, not as open to talking to people and things like that. You know what I mean? I didn't I was pretty much really into my career and into myself and seeing how big my biceps could get. That sort of person. Little did I know about Jiu Jitsu, man.
Wow.
Those Jiu Jitsu guys mess you up. But no, I really feel like it became to the point, if they say this about bone marrow transplant, that you're not going to survive very long if you're an angry person, if you're a person who's mean, because the stress will kill you real fast.
Wow.
So I had to learn right away. Part of it was I had to really change my whole personality, because I had to become a salesman for myself and an advocate, and I had to get doctors and nurses to like me sometimes that otherwise might not, because it's just like anything else. If you can get in with them, if you can get in with the front desk people, you can get some big sales for your cancer stuff. You know what I'm saying? People will pull strings for you and do nice
for
things.
you. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I had to really change, like, hey, you know, more of that came into my personality before I'd just be like, oh, screw you.
Yeah, screw these people. Huh. Well, you're an absolute sweetheart. So that is interesting. Like every time I meet you, it's just positive energy throughout. Brother. So it's so interesting. I think a lot of people could probably like learn from, you know, your attitude in life. When you're going through so much, people think that like, oh, my girlfriend broke up with me, my life is horrible, and you just maintain a super positive attitude through so much.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I think some of it's because I'm like, sometimes death is a good motivator. Like, man, if I'm a jerk or I get kind of grumpy at home and stuff, I literally get sick like really fast. If I get, you know, into it with anybody, like my kids are pissing me off or something, it happens here. I'm lucky. I've got really, really sweet kids, and I got 3 boys, and they're real patient and stuff like that. But it does happen, you know, you're in a family or whatever, you get mad, I will literally get sick and I'll suffer the next day. So I'm like, crap, I got to make sure that I'm not a jerk.
How interesting. So maybe by design, you'll have to almost like convince yourself to maintain a positive outlook.
I think so.
Wow. Huh. Well, it's something that probably I could like do a little bit more of. Sometimes I just get pissed off and like aren't doing well. How interesting, you have an immediate physical reaction when you don't feel good.
Yeah, it's true. The stress is just, it's been said many times, but that's one benefit, is when my body is very vulnerable to a lot of different things, I can really see what works and what doesn't. And I'm kind of a nerd. I'm tracking my stuff all the time. I keep everything, you know, what happens to my body and things like that. And it's really true. You know, the sleep, of course, but the stress. If something happens in my life where it's like, oh no, the business, you know, or this or that, it'll physically manifest really quick, and my body ends up having to fight. Just the donor immune system and everything goes into pretty big battles. So when that happens, I gotta. Sometimes it's frustrating. I have to break through the frustration of having to admit that I gotta drop everything and just start battling this. I got to try to sleep. I got to try, you know, when people are awake in the daytime, I got to go take a nap for 2 hours, stuff like that.
Yeah, in conjunction with what already pissed you off in the first place. Wow. You know, maybe that's just like a real phenomena that everyone has inside them, that like when they start feeling bad, their life starts to go worse, but you just have a more sensitive reactor towards it.
Good. Man, that's well said. Said way better than I could.
Maybe that's what it is, because how interesting. Yeah. I mean, I do feel like that. Like when I do get very negative about life, like my life starts being worse in different ways. But like when I can just maintain that, like I'm trying my best out here and I'm just trusting the process, trying to get out of my own way, then life starts to help me out. It's like, you know, you said you're a God guy. It's like God helps those who help themselves.
Ooh, good word.
You know, because
100% agree with that.
It's so true. You know, it's like if you're just self-loathing all the time, typically it's, you know, you find more reasons to loathe about it. But if you're really helping yourself, no matter what stage of life you're at, if you're really trying your best, then more things happen. More good things just happen to you.
Oh, I love that. That's wise. That's some good wisdom. You know, I absolutely love, I'm bouncing around here, but I love that last podcast with you and Aaron.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that was so well done. Anybody that hasn't listened to that, like, you got to go and listen to that. That was good. And you and Issa, man, that was another great one. Your guys' brotherhood together is, I've just been in kind of sort of an outside observer, like when you come into Tim's gym or whatever. It's just beautiful, man.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's been really cool, you know, being part of Issa's growth journey as well, because, you know, we started together when I was maybe, well, my very first jiu-jitsu was with Issa. Like, I was living in Tempe, and I lived right across the street from Arizona Combat Sports, and I was 19 at the time. And I went and trained with him for about 6 months, and then I went on this like moving escapade where I originally got evicted from my apartment, and then from there moved, I think, 13 times in 7 months. And and so throughout this, I just a bunch of stuff happened. I stopped training jiu-jitsu, but around like 22 years old, I got back into it. I was training at Gustavo's for about 6 months. I was following Issa on social media and saw that he just opened up a gym, and so I went and tried just a drop-in, and it was awesome, and I signed up right then. And I've been, he just opened up the gym at the time, so there was times, where I would go show up to class, and this was also in contrast to I'd just been training at Gustavo's, who's a very established gym, so there could be 30 people at training at any given time. I would go to Issa. Sometimes it's just me and Issa,
Privates.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Some people that were new members looked upon that negatively, but it's like you pay black belts for privates, that's $100 an hour, $150 an hour more, so I that's how I looked at it. Like, I was getting regular privates, and so seeing him from where he was, and then I think he was in like 800 square feet, to now hopefully any day now we're expanding into a place that's 5,500 square feet. I
heard about that.
Yeah,
man.
It's been really cool.
And you guys are having a recovery center in that spot too?
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, he's gonna have cold plunges, sauna, red light therapy. All of that.
Man, oh man, I can't wait to visit. I'm past due visiting One Love Grappling, man. I'd
love for you to come. Yeah,
man, I'd love to go there.
Yeah, even right now we're like sort of in the dungeon. We're in a different part of the complex that like, because the space was supposed to be ready like 3 or 4 months ago, and so we had to leave the lease that he was currently in and just move in. Luckily, the landlord had an additional space in there, so that's where we're currently training. But I'd love to have you.
It looks dope just from seeing on the thing. And you guys are like on East Greenway, right?
It's 32nd Street in Greenway.
Yep. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
I was just gonna say, how often do you train jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, that's what we're on the same wavelength. Man, when I first started the first year, I was just I loved everything about it, and I had a little bit less busy schedule. I was working contract work for adult developmentally disabled, so I'd write contracts for the government. Never was in it before, but somebody hooked me up with a job, and I could write and just kind of do my thing. So the very first year I was there, I was training probably on average 15 times a day. And
15 times a day?
Not a day. Holy shit. What's wrong with me? I mean a week. Yeah, can you imagine?
You're getting after
You're like, wait a minute here.
15 times a week is an incredible amount too.
That's what they're doing over there in New Wave, I
think. Yeah, 15 times a day.
Yeah,
15 times a week is an incredible amount too. Yeah, that's twice a day, sometimes 3.
Yeah, and having the body be beat up and kind of get sick sometimes. And I remember I was on the Timbo Sugar Show, and they were like, I don't know. They were like, we don't know what you're doing. We were worried about you at first, but when I explained it, it was me kind of beating my body down. And I think you've talked about this. I've heard you talked about this in a couple of your podcasts. It's that maybe that year or two of time that you have of training where you just beat the crap out of yourself. But you get better, you level up, you know what I mean? And something in me was so hungry just to go in there. And I remember one day Tim beat me so bad he made me cry at the end. He felt bad afterwards, but he was doing one of the cover in the mouth and then all those like jerk coach moves or whatever. But so those guys have been so good to me though over there. The whole jiu-jitsu community is like that, and so now I've had to cut back this year. Since January, I've been trying to not get frustrated, but my red blood cells are down. I've had a fever. I broke it finally this week, or last week on Friday. I had a fever for the last 3.5 months or so.
Whoa.
So I know
3.5 months.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, and I can I'll go on the cold plunge, and obviously your body temperature goes down. So if I took my temperature, I'm going to be lower. Or sometimes if I get really sweaty, then my body momentarily breaks the fever. But other than that, and it was getting up into the 104, 105. They say you can't measure it. So we were getting up in there, and we have the donor immune system stuff going on. So a couple of weeks ago, I had to stay in the hospital, and we tested the heck out of everything, even the West Nile virus, trying to find out what was causing it. Wow. But it's just tumor related stuff. It was just fever causing it. So sometimes that gets a little frustrating, and that plus having low red blood cells, that drops my oxygen, makes it tough to train. So now I'm probably doing 3 or 4 sessions, and it's gotten hard to get in there. You know, I got to be really careful who I'm going to be getting into a live with, because if I push myself too hard and I get that wind going, then I can kind of feel the heart doing some not good stuff. I'm like, okay, back off. But at least I've been able to get in there and drill, which just, I feel so good when I'm able to do that.
Yeah, that is good. Wow. So does like cold plunge and and like do you do sauna when you have a fever?
Good question. Yeah. So this has been, I've been geeking out on this because now I've had fevers off and on for a long time and have been able to track and experiment, but this has been one where it's been every single day. So I've really been able to try a lot of different things. And the cold plunge, for some reason, if it's 100.4 or below type of low grade fever, the cold plunge actually creates more stress in my body, and it seems to not be worth it. But the sauna really helps with that one. The sauna makes me feel so good. And then the flip side, if it goes up higher, if I get into Monday, I had a really rough day and I got up to 104 at 1:30 in the morning, and I was like, darn it. And I went into the cold plunge, and it just felt so good. I sat there in there. It was probably 45 degrees, and I sat did a 3-minute one. We have a pool, so I went back and forth and then did some 30-second interval sort of thing, and that seemed to help a lot. But the sauna, if I'm too hot, then it just seems to increase the fever for some reason.
Wow, interesting. So it's sort of like fever dependent on which one helps.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah.
And so 3 months of it, was there anything in particular that like finally brought it down, or maybe it just ran its course?
We still got it, darn it.
Oh gosh, oh no. Do you have a fever right now?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you know what your fever is right now?
We were just at the hospital, so in there we were doing infusions. We've been low. A lot of weird stuff happens when you have a lot of tumors in your body. So blood count's low, but the iron gets low on that, and the ferritin gets high. So we were trying to balance that out with some infusions. But when I was there, I'm taking Tylenol, but I have to be careful because it's just a medicine like anything else, and your body can adapt to it. So we were at a 101.8.
Wow,
and that
today.
That was post Tylenol. So I'm probably about there right now. In daytime, I kind of drop a little bit. I might be lower. You're making me feel good, man. I think I'm 100. I think I'm going to say I'm 100.2 right now.
Wow, dude, well, what a beast. You know, most people are bedridden when they have a fever or, done for the day. You've had one for months on end.
It used to be that way. I used to be the biggest wuss in the world. Oh, help me, your girlfriend or whoever it is. And you calling my mom up and stuff. And even in the first year, something happened, I'd freak out and I'd go in the hospital, and I spent a long time in the hospital. But just like anything else, I kind of feel like 11 years now, I'm going to say I got a black belt in this, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely you do.
So then you just kind of learn the tricks and how to roll with it. And a lot of it's the heart rate, pain, fever, low red blood cells, those big 3 ones for the cancer battle. If I track my resting heart rate, so if my resting heart rate gets up 15 to 20 points, then I'm like, okay, I got to do something about this. I got to take some heavier pain meds. I got to take something to help calm my heart rate down. I use a lot of, I'll go in and out of using marijuana. That's saved my life over the last 11 years, 100%.
Really?
Yeah, and that's been a tricky one too, because I used to love I've always kind of loved it in and out, going back to probably college times or whatever, but then I was like, oh, I got cancer, let's go. Started just taking massive bond rips and stuff.
Wow,
and
especially at a time where it was recreationally illegal too.
Exactly. Well, I went and got back 11 years ago, I was able to get my that was
medical
a weird
marijuana?
thing. Yeah, medical marijuana card. And then the insurance company came after me and said that they were going to cancel my insurance so my doctor went to bat for me, and so then I just had to do it low key. But then I found out too that when your immune system drops, your white blood cells drops, if you're taking big bong rips, and I did like the bomb because I felt like the water kind of filtered a little bit out of it versus the pipe you're going to straight in, you're going to get mold, tiny bit of mold and things that normally be able to fight off, but wasn't. So I remember when I was really hitting, I caught pneumonia, and I'm pretty sure it was
from the bong rips,
probably doing that. So I switched over to just doing little capsules and some coconut things.
Oh, interesting. The THC capsules?
Yeah, exactly. THC capsules. I messed around with gummies and things like that, but those seemed to, I could get a better flow of when it was going to hit, and I could
through
keep
the capsules.
There you go. Yeah, and I could keep the amount that worked the best for me or whatever.
I remember dose control better.
Exactly. My parent. I grew up in a house where there was no alcohol or anything. My parents were pretty strict on that. So at first, I remember my mom was like, "Oh, marijuana," and then fast forward like a year later, my dad's meeting one of my friends, like a little bit of a sketchy friend somewhere, getting marijuana for me, and my mom's at Thanksgiving. I think you should smoke marijuana, Kyle. And I'm just coming out listening to Bob Marley. I'm like, all right.
How funny, huh? Have you ever tried a vaporizer?
Now I got a Mighty's. I don't know if you know the portable version of the Volcano.
Oh, I have seen that.
That has been money all the way, and I still have to be careful with that. If I've got lung stuff going on, it's still a little bit of a whatever going into your lungs or whatever. And then another really weird thing was I had to stop. It was probably 4 years ago because I was getting nausea association. I'd get into nausea as a whole other thing in the cancer world that people die from more than people know, because you go into layers of nausea. So you got your flu, tequila bend to nausea. You might be able to post surgery. You might be able to control that with a Zofran or something. That's a frontline anti-nausea. And then you got in chemo, you've got a next level, and then you got a next level to that. So you got to be careful, because if you vomit and you start vomiting, then you got to get on a feeding tube. You mess up your esophagus. So they have a lot of different chemo anti-nausea drugs. One blocks your vomiting receptors, but you'll block your vomiting receptors, but you want to vomit. So you get into these really, really deep layers of nausea. I forgot where we're going before that nausea.
Things that are helping your, I guess just data. It was started with the fever, and then marijuana is helping the nausea. And
yeah, I guess we were on track.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I've heard that. I forget who was telling me. I think it was my girlfriend's sister, maybe. She actually went through she went through a form of cancer last year, and she talked about there's something where you get into like a cycle of nausea where she knew, like, before treatment, even though the treatment would make her nauseous, but as soon as she got there, she would start to get nauseous because her body had developed a pattern of getting nauseous anytime this happened.
Good. You just covered my wavelength that I was trying to find. That's chemo association, they call it. So there would be shirts. I had some of the nurses told me, you got to put all your other shirts away and only have chemo shirts, and then when you're done, get rid of those, because it was true. I'd look at them and just be, and then it got to the point where I'd see one of my nurses and and then it was really bad, because my mom was coming in to some of my hard chemos, and that really hurt, because then I couldn't even tell her that I'd see her and I'd get kind of sick. Fortunately, I broke out of that one, but even marijuana, the smell of it for a while, I'd get when you get in those really deep layers, it's just your heart, if you don't do something to your heart, so you get into taking stuff, Zofran, Ativan, Xanax, you're just layering these drugs, and marijuana is always my breakthrough one, or like my bridge one and stuff like that. So when I'd be really sick in those deeps, and then I'd associate that marijuana smell. Well, 4 years ago, I lost, this is before the COVID thing, I lost taste and smell from one of the chemos. And it's not entirely gone. My boys are always asking me about it, but I can still experience stuff, and I can kind of get a little bit of something now and then.
So you're talking about right now. It still hasn't come back fully.
Yeah. It's been 4 years now. So sometimes I'm like, it's weird, but if there's a bad smell, like, I don't know what people smell like in jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm like, I wonder what it does smell like. But it's been nice, because then that erased my association with marijuana. So that enabled me. That's been my number one go-to. That's my front line and my biggest power when I do have nausea.
Wow, interesting. Is there any other? You said you've got like for doing it so long, being a black belt, you've got like the tips and tricks. Is there anything else besides marijuana you do to get through the day? I mean, anytime something intense is happening?
Kratom's been a huge one for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Kratom has been, I got turned on to them by Chris Bell. He did a movie, documentary, Leaf of Faith. And that one's surprised me at first. I entered it pretty tentative, because I've heard people getting addicted to it, and it does have a little bit of an opioid feel, but then it is a coffee alkaloid, so it's somewhere in that vicinity. that one has been a game changer and lifesaver for me, because I can, for my body at least, I can come off of that a lot easier. So if I'm taking, if I get some really, really bad tumor pain, like then the heart rate's up and I can't sleep and it's beating my body up, then I would go to an oxy and maybe Ativan and codeines when I felt, I don't know what happened to me, but somewhere in there I was doing a chemo and it was whatever scissorp is, or what, you know, that I was lean. I was listening to Clams, seeing all this stuff, loving this new music or whatever. Yeah, it really worked, but I really got into codeine. But those are hard to come off of, those drugs. Like I'm constantly having to detox off of drugs and be aware.
Become physically addicted to them.
Yeah. Or prednisone, for example. It's another class of drugs, but I'm coming off these drugs, so I'm detoxing. So Kratom has been great to help me get off of these drugs, and for some reason that's even easier for me than coffee to come off of. Like I definitely feel something, but not pain like from if I probably drink too much coffee, but then I come off of that, then you get the coffee headache. But yeah, that's helped with it's been a great pre-jiu-jitsu. I love taking some Kratom before jiu-jitsu. It kind of gets me in a good vibe sort of spot. It definitely has helped with pain. It's come through with pain a lot. I'm kind of a Kratom freak now.
Wow, nice. You said it's a coffee something?
Coffee alkaloid, yeah.
What's that mean?
So it's from the coffee plant. So it's somewhere in that whole spot of coffee. So you can kind of feel a little bit of, and there's different strains of it. There's most of the good stuff is coming from Southeast Asia, but you can kind of feel the coffee a little bit in there, but it doesn't give you like a jittery feeling or get your heart rate moving as much. So that one's been good because I can take it and I can get up almost cerebral, like having a really good sativa, like you just took a great sativa hit, but not so strong, and I can control the dosage a little bit better that way.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, it has like a stimulating effect sometimes.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow. You know, I've recently gotten to Kratom as well. Just this year probably. I was in the middle of one of like the ADCC camps, like preparing and just training 10 times a week or whatnot. Still not 15 times a week. Like, yeah. But
that was only 1 year.
Yeah, but my body's just hurting at all times, you know, and like also too, you know, training late in the day, typically, I mean, I take actually the early class, so typically it's like 5:30 to 7, but you know, you've just been finishing your live rounds at 7 p.m. I think there's something to your circadian rhythm where you've put your body in this flight or fight response late in the day, and some people can't do that, or apparently it messes with their sleep cycle, and I'm not sure. I think maybe there's an effect of that too, doing it very consistently, and so Kratom has made me, I'll eat some and then go to sleep right away, and then also too, any little aches and pains and whatnot, it just takes it away completely. So
are you using the Red Valley then?
I'll do Red Valley or Red Dragon too.
Red Dragon, I haven't tried that one.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like more intense than Red Valley.
Man,
I have some, I could give you some.
Oh, I'm down for whatever. And Craig, don't get me started going on Craig. I want to make sure that you know and people know too. Like when we're talking about jiu-jitsu, this is a NBA superstar, and this guy right here is a couch potato, like an onlooker sort of thing. Like my training is the way that you train. Oh my gosh,
I don't know about that.
I have so much respect for what I know now, being in it for 3 years, what you go through to get to the point you're at. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's amazing.
Well, thank you very much. You know, I heard someone tell me you did like some big competition close after some sort of treatment or something. What was that?
Oh man, yeah. So I'm gonna say, here's the good news. Last year I won I did the little guy category, and I won the Nogi Arizona State Blue Belt Championship.
Wow, what a beast. Let's go. And probably add that to the world records.
I was in the chemo there, so I ran with that a little bit and tried to have fun with that. And then I got my head swole a little bit, and I said, you know what, I'm rolling with these guys in my gym. These motherfuckers, they're like 18 to 25. I'm doing pretty good. I'm handling my own with them. I'm gonna join up in the 18 to 29-year-old blue belt.
Oh wow!
And guess who was my referee? It was Aaron Wilson.
Oh, was he nice?
it was 6 matches, and oh man, you see probably the worst beatings ever that have happened. And one guy ankle locked me real hard. Aaron was like, I think from that point on, he and like you had said on the last one, he is he's the kindest, sweetest dude I've ever met. When I first met him, I was kind of scared of him. I was like, damn, this dude looks like a badass. Dude, he was so good to me through that thing. And he was like, and I wanted to stop like halfway through. And I was like, I can do this. I was like, should I keep going? Am I embarrassing everybody around here? He's like, no, go for it, brother.
Wow, what a beast. I mean, just getting after it, just signing up in the first place and going for it is what's important. But yeah, that's awesome. Well,
kind of dumb.
That's funny. I know how you feel. You win a big tournament. You're like, I can't be beaten. Yeah. I can do anything. Yeah, that's awesome. We actually have a guy at my gym that his name's John Lombardi. He just joined. He's 58 years old and just started jiu-jitsu. He's never done jiu-jitsu before. He trained at like a Gracie gym for a little bit before us, but he never went live at that gym. So he came to us. It was a totally different vibe. He'd been training with us for maybe, I want to say like 3 or 4 months, and joined a competition. And it was one of those where it was either 18 to 29 or 30 and plus. And so there wasn't, it's Masters 1, 2, 3, 4. It was just 30 plus, and he's 58 years old. He signed up for the 30 plus, but when you do that, you check the box where if there's no one that signs up for my division, I'll go low. I'll go younger. For crap's sake. and so he goes. His very first competition ever. I think it was 5 matches total. He won 3 of them. And
my gosh.
And the two that he lost to were like 22-year-old just juice heads that had been wrestling for like 6 years prior. One guy wrestled in college. I'm like, buddy, you're not a white belt. What are you doing signing up to this white belt tournament? But
I want to meet this guy, man.
Super
That's
impressive
awesome.
Performance. Well, you got to come to One Love.
Dude,
sometime.
I can't. Now you got me fired up, bro. I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think the new gym should open like any day now.
Oh, right on.
I'm sure he'll announce it. I'll like repost and stuff too.
For
so
sure.
we follow each other. You'll have to come out when that happens.
I finally visited Tank's gym. It took me forever to get out.
Nice.
Visiting a new gym sometimes or whatever. And then, the cancer stuff. I don't know what's going to happen. Driving out to Tempe, sometimes I got to be close to a toilet or whatever. Man, when I finally got there, I was like, gosh dang it, why did I take so long to get down there?
Nice.
Tank is just such an awesome guy, and the more that I've gotten to know more of the jiu-jitsu community, because sometimes you get just focused on your own, like, oh, this is all there is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the more I've gotten out to visit other places, it's just it's one love. It is one love. Then, man, you guys are, I got to get there. That's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never been to Tank's gym before.
Yeah?
But he's a great guy. Training with him at Tim's.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
He's a very cool guy. But that totally is it. It's so interesting how the jiu-jitsu is so full of great people. I think part of it is that there is sort of a natural ego check that happens when you first start. You first start, and no one is a badass when they first start. I mean, you could even be like a sick wrestler, but you start and go into jiu-jitsu, you're diving into a world that you've never been in, and you just get beat up regularly. That's just part of, first starting. And so I think it has this natural, check of your ego, because every male, I think, has sort of an innate bravado, almost an unearned bravado of, if it were to happen, I could hold my own. And then you go in and you roll with this 5'4" chubby guy who's been just doing it for 8 years, and he just wrecks you. And you're like, oh, what the heck? This isn't how I'd expect that to go. And that's just how it happens. So I think through that, a lot of people sort of check their ego and become, really good people throughout it, or just kind of develop a better sense of what it is to, be a kind person.
100%. How do you correlate it to other? Because there's the general population still is like, jiu-jitsu, karate. I mean, we can't even put karate in there anymore, right? I mean, but you've got all these different combat stuff going on. You see in the Olympics, you got taekwondo and you got judo, and I think jiu-jitsu is coming in the 2028 or something.
Is it coming in?
I think that's what I might be wrong.
I've heard there's talks of it, but I'm not sure.
And then you've got wrestling and stuff like that. Still, there's something in jiu-jitsu. I've never, I've tried a lot of different stuff, but what do you think? What do you think it is that there's something there that builds community in a beautiful way I've never seen before, and then there's something there that really translates to lives. I see guys and I was kind of guilty of this too, not sticking to stuff as much before, and then once I got into jiu-jitsu, it's been a lot easier for me to stick to stuff. It's like if I would have known what I know now, start a new business, do this and do that. It's definitely helped me. It's something about, kind of rambling, but it's something's in motion and it keeps moving or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I think it's sort of multifaceted. What the answer is. It's like part of it is the journey is so long. And you're not just going to get an expert quickly. You can train like you did 15 times a day, or 15 times a week, 15 times a week, every week for years. And there's still going to be guys out there that are a lot better than you. And so it's this forever pursuit. And then also, too, I think part of it is that there's like a finality to it, that if you get a submission, that person could have killed you right there. You've gotten to a point where that's the human checkmate. When there's equivalence to it in maybe striking arts, but the difference I think is you can be a novice in a striking art and accidentally knock someone out. You can just be swinging wildly and really catch someone, and you think you're really a badass because you knocked out this guy with more experience than you. In Jiu Jitsu, you're never gonna accidentally omoplata someone. It takes learning the technique to actually get through it. And so I think it's sort of that pursuit of just learning. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of different reasons why it's just so great. And yeah, there's just such trust that's developed through your training partners too, because of the finality of a submission.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just awesome.
I know that there's been some pretty cool documentaries in flow grappling, but I think we need a really good jiu-jitsu movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just like a sweet one that really captures everything what you're talking about right there.
Yeah, what did it like a John Wick, but like for like
there you go.
Your normal 9-to-5 worker.
I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, that would be sweet. I think I would rather see a really good one that would be maybe even just a fiction movie. Like my all-time favorite movie is Rocky. You know what I mean? Like what it did for boxing, and that just stuck with me the rest of my life. But something. How could you do jiu-jitsu where it's like the reality of what happens and what you go through with, you know what I mean?
Yeah, interesting. It's hard to say. It might actually take something, there probably is a way to do it in a fiction way, but it might really take some, like a documentary type thing, following people through the path or just talking to people through their experiences, because it is interesting that so many people have this unique experience or not unique experience, like a shared experience of there's Instagram pages online called Jiu Jitsu Saved My Life.
Wow.
And so many people have felt that Jiu Jitsu has completely changed them. Oh. Yeah. And I think it's something to do with the Jiu Jitsu. It's not just these people all having individual, they're not, unique experiences. It's something that a lot of people are experiencing.
I'm looking at this camera get up here. It looks like you know what you're doing. And then I'm put my mind's racing forward to movies. And then we got some pretty good people. You got, imagine you get Issa, we got JX, and you got, the Sugar Show and all that stuff. Maybe, and I'll come in there and flex a little bit. Maybe it's us that got to put a little something together here.
Yeah, just a little docu-series, just talking to people. And
that'd be dope.
A couple of guys I train with, they have this page called Rolls on Rolls, and they've been doing something that's been super fun lately where they'll just, before class or after, just go up and talk to people, what do you love about jiu-jitsu? And we're getting a bunch of training footage. Yeah, we're getting a bunch of training footage plus a bunch of just like random interview footage too. But maybe if they did something more like maybe like a goal structure towards something like that, sort of like how what's it called? What's the Daisy Fresh?
Yeah, I was thinking of them too. The same one.
Something like what Daisy Fresh.
They're the top. They're the top of that right now.
Yeah, they've done pretty good. Yeah, that'd be very cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah, very cool.
What do you do for work? I never asked you.
So I'm in commercial real estate.
Oh, right on. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep, I got into it about 8 years ago, and that's been what I've done for work for this whole time.
Man, so you do commercial real estate. That can be you can probably get some times in there where you're getting pretty damn busy, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, my career sort of ebbed and flowed, and so, I mean, it's kind of like life has ebbs and flows, and I sort of like chose a career path that tied my income to that ebb and flow. Right and on. So like during the first 3 years, I worked a second job or sort of like 3 jobs at the time. Ooh. And just, working a ton. You really don't make money at the beginning. It's very difficult to start in it. It's mostly actually about developing relationships is how you end up doing deals, is like when someone trusts you. And it's very difficult to get someone to trust you. And it's not something you could do and just call someone. And typically how it happens is you call someone, you try to provide some valuable information, and hopefully they see that. But even through that, it takes keeping in touch with them for a couple months, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line. You've been talking to this guy for 2 years, and now you kind of know each other. And so now from here, this guy truly trusts you, and now he'll trust you with listing his property, or trust that this offer you're bringing him is a true market offer and not something that you're trying to just steal from him. And so because it takes so long to develop that trust, that's basically the first couple of years. You're just developing trust with people. And then as you continue to get better, you're just better at communicating with people and better at maybe conveying your ideas to people. And so you can, grow as your career grows too. And so I've done that for a long time. The market's been crazy for, the past couple of years. After rising interest rates last year, it's slowed down significantly. And so since then, I've sort of been pouring a little bit more love and attention into things that I truly enjoy. Because, brokerage has been an excellent vehicle for me, but I've always viewed it as a stepping stone to some of my bigger goals in life. And awesome. I'll continue to broker, and I'll continue to try my best and try my absolute best to give the people that I work with the highest and best service. But at the same time, with a just general slowdown, I decided that this one point, it was actually a psychedelic experience that and it was the week before the first Butter Smooth Fight Club. I was thinking, I was just thinking, like, I've been giving a lot of time and attention into this Jiu Jitsu competition, and I'm taking a little bit away from my day job, and I was thinking, I'm like, but I've been really enjoying it. Like, I really love what I'm doing. I'm setting up super fights, and it was sort of a last minute pivot, and I was having so much fun doing that, calling this person and then that person, and we make a match, and I announce it. These guys are going. It's gonna be the first match of the uni. I was having a lot of fun doing that, and I realized, like, amidst this experience, that I want to give my life to something that I enjoy. I want to do it for the love of it. I don't want to. Brokerage is awesome, but you don't do it for the love of the sport. You do it as a means to an end. And I want to do something that I love in and of itself. And so it was during that time that I kind of poured harder into the Butter Smooth Fight Club. And then about a few months later, I was thinking, and it was actually during another psychedelic experience. And I actually tried to do them, maybe quarterly.
And that's like mushrooms?
So in this case, it was ayahuasca.
Oh, you did ayahuasca? Wow, amazing.
Yeah, and with that, the first time I decided that I want to do it annually. Just an annual experience, and mushrooms I'll do here and there. But it was another psychedelic. It was another ayahuasca experience that I was thinking about, like, humans' domination of the world and why we're the overwhelming or the apex. The apex creature on the earth, and I think it's because of our ability to communicate with each other. And because we can tell our kids, like, hey, don't touch that, it's hot, or hey, you can do this better, or you can read some guy's book and he can show you something that took him 40 years to learn. So because of our ability to communicate each other, I think this is the reason that we've raised above all other animals. And I was thinking during this time, I'm like, well, what better way to practice my communication than starting a podcast?
Yes.
And so, because it's so interesting, like, we're good friends. We also have really good fun talking to each other, and just always a real positive experience. But in what other setting could we be like, hey, you want to just meet up on a Wednesday and just talk for 2 hours? And so it's been really fun.
And you got to be on your A game too, because a bunch of people might be listening, so it really makes you kind of focus in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't think so. I think you honestly just got to continue to just be yourself, and that's what shines through. Your A game is just being yourself.
Hey, I love that.
When you move away from that, that's when you're moving into when you try to do your A game, you start getting your B and C game.
Man, that's really good.
Yeah.
The commercial real estate, I entered that world just from the recharge center for our business. The meal prep business. We were looking for a new kitchen space. Do you deal with smaller people like us?
So I mostly do sales. Like I've done a few leases for friends of mine. And is that what you're looking for, to lease like a space for a kitchen?
Yeah, we've been looking off and on. We ended up settling in we had to get out of our spot that we're in because we were outgrowing it. There's no ventilation and stuff like that. And we moved into a new house and been building up a commercial kitchen in there. So we're working on getting certified for that right now. But it's looking like our goal is to keep growing the way we are. And then we're going to definitely need to get like a commercial kitchen spot.
Oh, that's awesome.
We went out and looked at some with Sugar because he was interested in kind of joining with us, and he came up with the idea of a spot that would have a drive-through on it as well. So you would have, the recharge center where you come and get your meals and the healthy drive-through.
Oh, wow.
But man, then I learned how hard it is to get a drive-through.
Oh, wow. Yeah, a space with a drive-through.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be the best person to help you with that, but I could connect you with someone who that's their specialty. They'd know people that probably have off-market properties that could help you, or someone who could just give you better service than I could in that area.
And I saw too, like you were saying, it was crazy how many things, just talking to people, how many things had shut down and how hard it was to find an actual kitchen space because of the way the market was.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Like that too.
And it's sort of a unique thing. It's not like there's a ton of people doing.
That's true.
Usually if there's a kitchen space, it's for a restaurant. Or,
yes.
I guess what maybe would be ideal for you is like a closed down Wendy's or something like that.
Yeah, that would be nice, bro.
There's one right down the road actually. I'm pretty sure it was a Wendy's that closed down, and there's been nothing there.
We looked at like an old Federico's too for a second, like one of those spots.
Oh wow, yeah, that probably would be a deal.
Then I was like, then we were kind of like, we don't. And then we're into the looking at franchising maybe down the road as the spoke and hub model, where it seemed to work for our business, where we would have one location to cook, kind of like Dunkin' Donuts does, and then we distribute out. So then we were thinking getting more like the salad to go space, because we didn't necessarily need a big space there, but a place where we had fridges and then people would come in and pick up. But
that would be good, because they don't actually have like a seating area, right?
That's right.
It's just a kitchen with a to go thing.
And we don't want, that's like in our place, like we'll have people come in and sit only. It's only like, I love comp training there is just an awesome thing. And I love it. Tim's gym, so people come in, and we can speak easy those and have people sit in there. But other than that, like we have to be careful, like with all the laws and rules and stuff. Just get people, pick up your meal, and then go.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's like a different classification as far as it's like a restaurant instead of.
We got to get a full health inspection and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, interesting.
We can stay in the gray area here and get our catering license with this.
Nice, that's cool. So is the space that you have right now? Is there a kitchen in there?
There was, but we started, we didn't know what we were doing. We kept our day job, and at the very beginning we weren't a meal prep business yet, so we were cooking maybe 40 meals, and we do it some evenings like when we had time and things like that. But as we grew, then we started to get to 200 meals, and that space just wasn't doing it. So that's why we had to move it to our home where we built a commercial kitchen in that space.
Wow! So you built a commercial kitchen in your house, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We have a pretty good property, so it's got like a back area. It's got a couple extra rooms. The person that lived there before us had built some add-ons. So that's enabled us to have we really needed ventilation. There was no ventilation in the space room, which is, we'd push the smell out into the hallways, so people would be like, but then back there they were like, I was like, okay, we can't do this anymore.
Wow. Huh. And your meals are great, by the way. I gotta say,
thanks,
I've done it a number of times. They're
You've been
delicious.
a big encouragement to us. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, they're delicious. So, is it like, were you guys cooks before that, or how?
My wife had always, let's see, we've been married 5 years now, and she's originally from the Philippines. So she would just, since that was her passion from a young age, she just would dream about cooking for people and having them smile. So she when she grew up, she started side hustling, just making mango pops and different little stuff together. Wow. So when she moved here, it always been kind of reminding. We would when I got involved with the gym, Sean and Tim's spot over there, we started having people over to our house for fight parties and things like that. And then she'd get excited and she'd cook, and then people like it. So then they'd start to come for the food, and they were like, you know what, I think we might be able to do something here. And then when we got into that new space and that little little mall thing, you're like, you know what? I think we could open up a little spot here. Let's go for this. It's probably after one of my little mushroom experiences.
Nice. Wow. Well, that's cool. I like how you do it too, because like I've done other meal prep services, and typically it's like they've got a menu and you order for the week. And you guys have like 3 unique meals that's different, and you do it twice a week.
Exactly.
So twice a week, there's 3 unique things, and it's always, you know,
Thanks,
it's always delicious. Everything I've had is amazing. Those little burritos you do are incredible.
Yeah, that was surprising because she'd never made burritos before, and that just kind of took off. You never know, like when you're doing business, what's gonna go. Some Indian dishes took off, but one thing we were sticking on is we're trying to keep things cooked the same day and fresh. Sometimes we got to get up super early for that, and we manage the staff. You get up at 2 or 3 in the morning, but I think it makes a difference in the food because we're trying to get all of our food where it's never been frozen. We purchase it where it's as organic or as fresh as possible, and I think that the nutrient quality really comes through that way. Like doing Sugar's fight camps and working with his nutritionist and analyzing everything, it seemed to make a difference. And sometimes, like when you guys are competing at the level you're at, that little 3% difference can be everything.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I could taste the difference between like frozen and non-frozen stuff for sure. I always try to do it like
I do too.
as fresh as possible. That's really cool. Yeah, I'd air fry your burritos. They're amazing. Yeah,
that's a great idea.
Yeah, I put them in there. Yeah, because and that is nice. Like when I pick them up on day of, they're like nice and hot. I can just eat one right away. But like after being in the fridge, in the air fryer, it gives that outside real crispy and a little hot sauce in there too.
That sounds good right now.
Honestly, yeah. Right. Wow. So does she do a lot of cooking for you guys too, or do you eat a lot of those?
We eat those TRC meals.
Yeah, that's a lot of your
the
meals.
boys. Yeah, the boys. Sometimes we fight over them. let's get in the living room. We're gonna do a little jiu-jitsu over this meal. But
nice.
No, like sometimes we'll break it up a little bit and we'll do a little something else. We'll do a little barbecue or whatever. But yeah, for the most part, it's one thing that I come up on sometimes is I'll get or I tried it. This actually pretty much every time she's supposed. I get Sugar's left over, so we're doing Sugar's meals. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm eating like the champ.
Nice. Well, so you'll prepare like a week's worth of meals for him, or a few days worth, and then like whatever the excess is.
Yeah, he does Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so we can really keep things as fresh as possible for him. So then, it's Monday when he'll be eating the grass-fed steak and the really good stuff, you know what I mean?
Nice.
So I think that's made a difference in his training.
That's really cool. So you guys handle his whole fight camp meal prep?
Exactly.
Wow, that's
we
incredible.
did his last 3. We had an interesting thing happen in this last one, and I think we're cool now because he talked about it on the Rogan show. But it was probably like it was 4 weeks before the fight, and somebody wanted I'm not sure who it was, but got the idea I don't think it was the nutritionist even. I actually think it came through Andrew Huberman. It was this deer meat, Maui Wowie, and I probably shouldn't have said the name. Anyways, it was some deer meat, and we introduced it in the diet because eating like deer or elk meat, that's like a really good source of fuel or whatever. Yeah. So we did that, and Ara cooked it, and so Sean got his meals, and I ate his off, and was like, that's pretty good. I'm gonna go crazy on. We both got just messed up from that stuff.
Got sick from it?
Oh, yeah. It was like literally texting back and forth, like, are you still shitting your brains out? Yeah. Yes, I am.
Oh, wow.
We got tested and everything, and it didn't turn out to be a parasite, but it was some kind of weird,
like food poisoning?
Yeah, bacteria, something or other that got in there.
Was it someone who hunted the deer, or you said?
It comes from it was from Hawaii, so it's supposed to be like, the very top of the line sort of deer, but for whatever reason. And the other thing we had talked about is his immune system is down. You're probably at your peak of training, right? 4 weeks or whatever it was before. My immune system is down, so maybe it was just the two of us too.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the combination.
But it threw him off for a good week. And then now we're like, well, maybe that was a source. Maybe we should do it again because that got the championship.
Worked out, yeah,
man.
That's funny. Wow, well, that's awesome. You guys have champion caliber meal prep.
Man, we're trying. Sugar's been so good to us. Like when we hadn't been a meal prep company maybe 2 weeks, and he came to us and he said, I want to use you guys, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I went to R and I were like, oh my, are you serious? We're going to do sugars?
Yeah.
Like, oh, crap.
Wow. Well, that's awesome.
He's been such a, you see the sugar show and stuff. And I think people are starting to learn that he's a super generous guy, but man, it's not even scratching the surface of what he does that people don't know about. What a great guy he is. What, how giving he is. He's extremely sharp in business. I've learned he's a real, he's such a good communicator. You, man, you're such a good business communicator, and it's very interesting that you've achieved so much at the level you are in jiu-jitsu, and then your career, you're super successful in career, and then a very good communicator. And I love how you're trying to go towards just continuing to work that gift that you have and that skill you have, because I think that this is it right now. There's not just something happening in the world where this is just moving into an amazing place, this podcasting stuff, but I think that where communication is versus TV, where there was a lot of fake stuff, this is reality right here. Yeah. I love the realness of it.
For sure. Well, thank you very much for the compliments. I appreciate it. Bro. Yeah. It's totally true. I mean, it's so weird, like, the little 10-minute TV interactions compared to this. We're just we're just hanging out talking, you know? Yeah, I think that's what it is. It goes back to the authenticity sort of shines through. But Sugar's a great guy. I've only had great experiences with him. I was so happy before him that day. What an incredible performance. Man. And then his walkout song too.
That's perfect. How can you beat that, man?
Yeah, that was sick. Wow. Jeez. That was so cool. Yeah.
I want Tim to get on that. I don't know if you did you watch him on the Rogan show recently?
Yeah, it's on the queue, but I haven't watched it yet.
It's a good one. I don't want to ruin it for you or nothing. I wanted to see a lot more of Tim on there, because
was Tim on there?
Yeah, he was on there with Sugar.
You mean just talking more?
Yeah, talking more. Almost like I would like to see Tim have his own Rogan show, because that guy is just incredible. He just has such a gift for the entire coaching thing. He's helped me a lot. Just he has a knack for getting into somebody's weakness and pulling it out. Like one of those guys or whatever. But you see him in that Aljo fight. You see him, and he's done this in a lot of the fights. They're at the weigh-in. Somehow Tim has weaseled his way behind Sugar, and he's like, you better shoot fast. You better shoot fast, and gets Aljo to look at him and take his focus off. And then after the first round of the fight, Tim's out there. I forgot what he was even shouting, but he's shouting, and the ref is like, Tim Welch, sit back down again. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow, really?
He's just got this. I would love for the world to see how special Tim is as a coach. I think he could go down as, you got some famous all-time coaches out there, and I think he could go down in that level.
Yeah, he's really cool. And one thing I thought that was so interesting in this last fight is, first round ended, second round starting, and by the judges' measure, at least, Sugar lost that first round. Yeah. And Tim was not like, all right, you need to step back here. You need to, move this hand. He was like, we're on the stool right now. We're here. We're on the stool. Yeah. Like I was drinking the night, so I forget exactly what he said. But he brought him to presence. He brought him to presence in the moment. He's just, we're here. We're on the stool, and it was just mostly about just forget it. We're just right here, right now. We're almost like a meditative coaching of just like, this is exactly where we need to be. This is exactly where we are. And it just brought him back to that moment. I thought that was such an interesting method, because you usually don't see that. Typically, it's like, get the fuck. You lost that one. Now we need to get back to this.
That's awesome. Are you a beer guy?
I typically I like an old fashioned is my favorite.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. That's it. I like whiskey. I do like beer as well, but like if I'm out drinking and stuff, like a nice old fashioned, couple nice old fashions are my thing.
I'm down for an old fashioned.
Yeah. Do you drink still?
I probably shouldn't at all, but yeah, the last 3 months I have, and I'll go through stages. It depends what chemo I'm doing and stuff like that. If it's gonna be, I'm on an oral chemo, then I don't mess with it. But beer, a little bit of alcohol. I've used that throughout my treatments. It's interesting, in some of the chemo bags, they actually put alcohol in there so it processes through your liver faster. So that was kind of my rationale. I was like, I'm gonna have a couple beers here. That's what they're doing in the chemo bags.
Wow, does it give you like an alcohol buzz doing that?
I did. You know, it's hard to say actually. Now that I think about it, I never really paid attention because you have so many other meds in you that you're already buzzing on a million things. I had this doctor one time. His name was Johnny Walker, and he came into my room. This was probably like 8 years ago. He's like, "I'm Johnny Walker. You just call me Johnny." You know, as a doctor like that, I was like, "Whoa, this guy's crazy." He was way into fitness, and he'd just come into my room, and I was in the hospital for a while then, and he talked to me for a couple hours. And one day he's like, "Hey, Kyle, you know, I already set you up across the street." It was in Old Town. I was in Osborne down there, and he's like, "I'll set you up across the street. You're gonna go down there. They're gonna plug your pull in, and you're gonna order 2 beers for you, and I ordered your meal for you, and you're gonna go down there, and you're gonna enjoy your night."
Wow, really? What the
hell? So I wheeled my pole across the street and everything, and had my beers, and had a great night. Came back feeling better and everything.
Wow.
And this is a crazy thing. But this guy, I built up a good friendship with him, and so I didn't see him for a while. And then one of his interns messaged me. Sadly, he was a super healthy guy. Like everybody knew he was the guy that would take people hiking and be in the front. And he's 52 years old, and said he sadly died suddenly of a blood clot, just a sudden blood clot out of nowhere. And that just blew my mind, because I'm like, man, why do I get to live? And why did this guy left behind kids and stuff like that? Why didn't he? That one stuck with me for a long time.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I still can't figure that out. I don't understand all. You know, I guess I say I'm a God guy. There's some questions I got.
Yeah, as we do all.
Yeah, there you go.
How interesting. You know, I typically don't ask like questions like this, but what would you say? What's the meaning of life?
Ooh, the meaning of life. For me, I think each person is going to have a different meaning. It's going to be unique. So I can answer it for myself as meaning of life is to bring glory to God. And I believe there's an afterlife. There's a real place, heaven, and I want to work and do my best here, which I'm definitely imperfect, but I want to keep working my hardest, so that when I get into heaven, I believe I'll continue to learn. I will continue to do combat sports and things like that, and I can continue to learn and grow. And that, to me, that's the meaning of life, is to just keep growing and working in eternity, loving one another. I just love that one love grappling, man.
Nice.
Loving one another, loving people loving people. In that whole mix, I think, I gave a lot of sentence there, but I think to me, that would be the meaning of life for me. That's an awesome question, man. I love that question. Yeah. What about you? Now I'm curious.
That's interesting. I think like you kind of reminded me of it. I think Earl Nightingale, who is a motivational speaker type guy in the like 70s or 80s, he said that I think he said the meaning of life or success is like a continuous pursuit of a worthy ideal. Ooh. So whatever your worthy ideal is, a continuous pursuit. If you're continually pursuing that, you're a success. Or
I love that.
Maybe that's what it is. It's a hard question to answer. To be honest, I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking.
If you're pursuing worthy ideal, you got to be passionate about it, right?
Mm-hmm. You got. I mean, it could be a number of different things. If you think a worthy ideal is raising a beautiful family, and you're doing that to the best of your ability, maybe that's success or a good life. Man, so it's hard to say. I think like partly what I feel the best at is when I'm constantly trying to, when I'm not just that, when I'm like constantly trying, when I'm really, trying my best at whatever I'm doing at the time. If I'm trying to grow through Jiu Jitsu, it's why it's such a great thing that like you can at least have one thing in your life that you're constantly trying to grow through.
Ooh, so important.
Yeah, and then I guess like just recently, just trying these different ventures and stuff, it's mentally taxing and very stressful in different times, but it's very fulfilling when it goes very well. And even like just sitting down with you, I've had such a fun time talking to you. It's man. It's like a reassurance that this is a good thing to do, and I really, I really like it.
Yeah, you're growing something beautiful here, and especially, I mean, the things you're doing, that's absolutely incredible. The butter smooth. That's the ticket right now. I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. It's incredible that you have you've got a pretty busy career. You're training like crazy. You've got your own career in training. I mean, I think you just went to Chicago or something to train. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're high level professional jiu-jitsu athlete, you got your career, and then you just decided to launch an entire organization. Maybe will take over everything the way you're going, man. It's awesome.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I think there's room for a lot of competitions, but I think a lot of competitions have prestige only because through longevity and not because they're the best expression of jiu-jitsu competition. And
that makes sense.
That's sort of what I'm trying to create, is the ideal expression of jiu-jitsu competition.
Man, I love it. And this podcast is good too. I just encourage anybody to get podcasting. This is it right here.
You've got a podcast too, right?
Yeah.
I'll have to come on yours as well.
Hey, we'd like that, man. Untapped.
I'd love to.
We've been struggling a little bit. So I do with Levi Kelly. I don't know if you'd met him. And
I'm not sure if I have.
He was an Arizona Diamondback, and he was training. He was coming into comp training, a taller guy. He might have been before you guys came. He ended up going back to baseball, and then he just his heart wasn't in it, left baseball and is pursuing MMA career. And so Tim said he could do it. So he's out in Florida right now. He was training with the Kill Cliff Fight Club guys. He made the team over there, and then he, like you know about all this, is he got a little injury, and that's trying to fight through that as a hip labrum sort of thing. Gosh. So that's what he's going with some of those Dagestani guys. The things he's been telling me what those guys do, man. Whoa, I was like, wow.
They just got wrestling in their blood.
Oh man, and they're doing stuff like grinding your chest and then doing all sorts of crazy stuff like that. But yeah, so he's my podcast partner. So we've been, with him being in Florida, he's planning to come back, but that injury kind of derailed him. Planning he was going to take an amateur fight there and then come back and train under Tim for another amateur fight. So we
interesting.
So now we've been doing Zoom stuff and trying to get that third person on there and stuff like that. As we've been maybe you'll have some pointers for me or something. we were thinking maybe just keep him and me on Zoom and maybe put a little TV up there, kind of like Ariel does or something, so we can have the, at least he could see that third person.
Or maybe you guys could be independent co-hosts too. Like, you do like just podcasts, and he'll do podcasts over there, and then you guys it's still both your podcasts, but not every show has both of you.
Yeah, that might have to happen, because especially with scheduling and stuff like that, if you're not around our gym community, you know how it is. It's like that's where I'm there for work. I'm worked there for the community, so it's easier for me just to be there. So
sure,
I think you're right about that.
And I think there's nothing better than being actually next to someone.
Yeah,
there's like an exchange of energy that I think can only happen in person.
You're so right about that, man. Yeah, thank you for that encouragement. That'll straighten some things out for me here. I just had a psychedelic flash experience.
Nice. Awesome. Well, brother, it's been a pleasure having you. I really appreciate you coming on.
What an honor and what a pure joy to be here, brother. Man.
Likewise, man. I very much appreciate it. So thank you so much. Check out Kyle at the Recharge Center.
Yes, sir.
And everywhere else. I'll link all socials in the description. But
thank you so much.
You're the man, brother. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man.